Tim Kennedy, he's kind of like me, but different. I mean, not because he's white and doesn't have locks and he's still in the National Guard and he was in Special Forces. I mean, like, he's an online sort of like social media bro, but like a vet bro. He's a Green Beret. He's still with the National Guard. He apparently over exaggerated his war story, his military service. I want to talk about why vets do this, why they feel compelled to do it, and all of that good stuff. I think overall it is something worth talking about because it outright stolen valor doesn't happen as often anymore, but like, this compelled feeling between veterans to really want to fit in, especially if you're in the online social circles, is a real thing. So let's just kind of like reset real quick. Green Beret, former MMA fighter Tim Kennedy, big online presence in the vet bro community, big social media influencer, lots of brand deals, but he's still connected to the military in the UCMJ, Uniform Code of Military Justice. The incident underscores elements of civilian military divide in the scrutiny over veteran influencers, I think is the easiest way to summarize it. So for me personally, I didn't know a lot about Tim Kennedy. I just knew that he was always on different shows, whether podcasts, his own content, social media influencer. I knew he was a UFC fighter. I knew he was a Green Beret, but I didn't really know until I really started seeing in other veteran content, like people were really coming at him for lying about his war stories. And I think that outright stolen valor, that's where a civilian who never served at all, who fakes the funk, whether they pretend they're active duty, have war stories as if they are a veteran, that's less and less. That's more rare than it used to be. Embellishments and inflating the service record, service claims of veterans is a thing, unfortunately, that's happening quite a bit. Let's talk about myself real quick. I was in the Marine Corps, and let's just be real. I went to GWAT. I was during the global war on air terrorism, but the people who did by far the most fighting during GWAT were 11 Bravos with the Army, and of course our 0311s that came with the Marine Corps. So, of course, there's Special Forces, there's Marine Raiders, there are Green Berets, there's Delta Force. Those all exist, but the preponderance, the heaviest lift in the military were those two MOSs. And so everyone else is, for the most part, is support staff to the infantrymen. And I was one of those support staff, but my job was still pretty unique where I still had to go on patrols. And I've had several combat deployments. I have been in theater a lot. I've been on multiple countries. The biggest theater country I was in Afghanistan. I want one thing to talk about when it comes to like us using this type of vernacular. Me being in theater means that I was in the theater that Central Command considered to be a hot zone where we got additional pay and those countries are considered. So when I was in Bahrain, when I was in Jordan, when I was in Kuwait, when I was in all those countries, I was in theater. My combat deployment country was Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, I was off the wire all the time. I was constantly writing contracts. My job was a contracting officer. My job was to write contracts for all sorts of stuff. If infantrymen needed me to buy goats so that they can then shoot the goat and practice sealing a sunken chest wound, or practice, bandaging up appendages, because you can't really, it's only so much dead Fred practicing you can do. I wrote those contracts. If you needed me to write a contract to dig a well 200 meters in the ground so there was drinking water for the local community, I wrote those contracts. Guard shacks for the Afghan National Police. Always off the wire because I had to go check on my projects. My worst war story, I've said this before and I do not want to overinflate, is literally me through a translator talking to a guy who we were paying to clear Russian mines from when Russia invaded Afghanistan. He was wearing a pillow in the front, a pillow in the back, and like a bicycle helmet. And then like 10 minutes later, we took fire from a mountainside. I didn't even put rounds down range. So that's why I don't have a car or a combat action ribbon. The troops that I was out there with put rounds down range, but that guy got shot and he died. That's like the biggest story I have. And although I just gave you a story that doesn't involve me putting rounds down range, I've probably seen more action than most folks that were during GWAT. Not bragging on myself. What I'm saying is most folks were support. Most folks didn't even deploy. And if you did deploy, you didn't do it. You didn't leave the wire. And if you did leave the wire, you probably didn't put rounds down range unless you were an 11 Bravo or an 0311. So I don't want to pump up your head or give you anything beyond that. That's why I say it's important for you not to inflate or to go beyond your career if you're a vet, because I still think you're a badass if you signed up, whether you were a cook, you were a mortarman, if you were a mechanic, whatever, you signed up during an all volunteer service and you possibly went overseas or you didn't go overseas. You were not drafted. We have not done that since Vietnam. So if you participated during those years, I commend you. There's no need to inflate what you did. You are awesome. Then it fast forward us to Tim Kennedy. He apparently talked about a story when they asked him, had he ever, received some type of award with Valor because of any of his war stories or anything like that. In a 2011 episode of the American Warrior Show, he said whether he ever earned a Bronze Star with V. He said that he had. There was a bad guy and the bad guy was shooting at us and I shot him. He said, I wish there was like this great heroic story. I just did what I was supposed to do like everyone else around me. Now, his story sounds believable because I'm just going to keep it real with you. It doesn't matter if you're an 0311, if you're an 11 Bravo, if you are a Pogue or anything. Most people that are well trained and put in a specific position in battle, if rounds are coming at you, you're going to put rounds down range. So this story sounds believable. And if he did eliminate a target and he got a Bronze Star with a V, which signifies something of valor, normally it happens in battle, it sounds pretty believable, because I'm just going to keep it real with you. A lot of people can get Bronze Stars if you're deployed overseas. If you're just really good at passing out gas masks, your command could submit you for a Bronze Star. If you're really good, even you can do stuff that's even more, spectacular. Like you can be out there ensuring that weapons didn't fail. You doing field stripping weapons or making repairs or whatever. People can get Bronze Stars for all sorts of stuff. But when you see V, when you see Valor, that means something. Those are differentiated and it's really definable. However, Kennedy, he did receive a Bronze Star in 2006 for what the Army describes as exceptional leadership while helping plan combat operations as a junior non-commissioned officer. The award was not for valor. It's an uncommon decoration for enlisted troops at his rank and age. Even a Bronze Star for leadership are virtually automatic for senior ranks. So it was still a big achievement for his rank. He could have just left it at that, but he embellished it. And that is a big issue because the rest of his credentials, the rest of the things that he did are pretty freaking spectacular. He earned his Green Beret in 2005. He graduated Ranger School in 2007. He got that Bronze Star in 2006. He has been deployed to Iraq, to Afghanistan. He has earned a cab, which is the Marine Corps' equivalent to a car, which is a combat infantryman badge. He has a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's an accomplished fighter. He's kind of the shit without having to embellish your story. That is why I think that it is unfortunate that he took it to that extreme. He took it to that route to even have to get it there to where he needed to embellish it. Then he comes out with this apology. I want to take full and unequivocal responsibility for a serious mistake. Over the years, I made public statements and gave interviews in which I unintentionally misstated aspects of my military service. Most notably, I implied directly or indirectly that I had been awarded the Bronze Star with V. This is not true. I'm gonna stop reading it here because I feel like the rest of the statement is long. It's on X if you want to check it out. But I even feel like that this apology wasn't wholehearted, and I think he was kind of greasing the skids because technically he's still accountable to the military. And he came out with this because you're a public figure, but at the same time, you were still in the military, even temporarily. And so he has to concern himself with like that. So here's a picture of Tim Kennedy, a Green Beret Army hype man. This was June 14th. So just last month, him participating in some combat fitness test or whatever the case may be. He still belongs. He's a master sergeant and he still belongs to the National Guard. So he's still accountable to this UCMJ. If, let's just say, for instance, right now I start lying about my military career, I owe nothing to the military. I'm pretty sure there's something that could be activated that could bring me back to get, I'm not retired. I'm not medically retired from the military. I'm pretty sure because I served, maybe that somehow they could reach me, but I don't have IR or inactive reserve time, nothing. He still has tentacles. That is why the Army is currently investigating what he's going through. Why do vets lie about their service? The first one I think is imposter syndrome. And I have this written down here because I think that that's probably the first and the biggest reason. You feel like an imposter when you hear someone said, thank you for your service. You're walking out of Walmart. They see your vet plates. They see your sticker on your car. They see a veteran on your license. If they check your ID, they say thank you for your service. And the next thing you know, you're having a conversation with them about your service, and they're a Vietnam vet, and you're hearing all these great stories, and you almost feel like an imposter. You're like, man, I was just a pogue. I was just a person other than a grunt. I didn't do all this awesome stuff. You almost feel compelled to lie about what you did in the military, which it's absolutely not needed to do, but I can understand and relate why you even want to do that, why you may compelled to do so. And that's probably the number one reason why people do it. And it's because they just feel like they aren't what they are, which you should be proud that you signed up. I get that. I feel that way sometimes too, even with like social media. Like, am I really a YouTuber? Because I really do this part time, and on my main channel, I do a lot more content, but this is not what I really do only, and all that other type of stuff. Then the second reason I think that vets lie about their service is the culture. So GWAP soldiers, airmen, Marines, sailors get a lot of praise and a lot of love. And if you are a global war on terrorism vet, it's different than it is for, well, at least initially when the Vietnam vets came back, they weren't as highly praised as we are in today's culture. And so sometimes you feel like to get that praise, even from a civilian, you need to prove to them like why they should be giving you that praise. It's not necessary, but I can understand why people do it. And I don't think that's something that you need to worry about. And let's just be real on this next one. Okay. There is a possibility, although slight, that CTE or TBIs, traumatic brain injuries, CTE in the case for Tim Kennedy, him being an MMA fighter in UFC, it could have something to do with it. Okay. Now listen, I'm not making an excuse for him. I'm not saying that it's something that he should have done, but we do have to keep it real. There are things that go beyond PTSD that physically can be wrong with a vet that can make them do things that lie about their service. Now, embellishing it, I don't know if that's directly related with a TBI, but forgetting aspects of it, lying that you were ever in the service, maybe lying about the branch. Maybe it's not a lie. Maybe it is physical. So I'm just giving you a reason. That doesn't mean that would happen in this case. And then ego. I mean, you're on podcasts, you're a social media influencer, you're getting free stuff, you're making big money. Sometimes the ego does take over. Narcissism is a real thing. There are still a lot of people who are in Congress. The director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, she's still a part of the reserve. Tim Kennedy's part of the reserve. There are still people who have a big public persona and profile, and they're also a part of the military. And the ego in real life sometimes is bigger than what you're doing in the military, and you want to inflate it. I think that that's not the best things ever. Hopefully this situation is the death of the vet bro type of social influencer, meaning like if you're a civilian, you never served, and you think that you need things because you see a special forces guy having it or whatever. I want this to be like the nail in the coffin of that. If you aspire to be like someone or to model yourself after someone who's a vet, you don't have to necessarily go for someone that was a Marine Raider or somebody that was a Green Beret or Delta Force, because you can gain knowledge from people who were never in the military. I've learned tons of stuff from one of my buddies who hunts, who shoots crazy good, and he's never stepped foot on any installation owned by the federal government. Nonetheless, was he in the military? So you can allow this to not just religiously, reflexively follow by the guns, the optics, the muzzle brakes, the grips, anything that you see those guys use, because it's not necessary. And this can be the opportunity to see that they are fallible, that they are real, and they make mistakes. Should his career end? No. As long as, I think maybe he needs to go further with that apology. but I believe people should be able to eat. Okay. He ain't out here killing dogs. He ain't out here touching babies in weird ways. And I think that he should still be able to eat. Career should still go on, but it maybe should have consequences. But comment down below, what do you think about this situation when it comes to the vet bros and these whole situations overall? Do you think that this is the end of the saga? Do you think other folks that are really big out there have other stories that they're hiding? I would love to know what your comments down below. First time stopping by, hit that subscribe button. I would love to have you here. Go check out my other channel as well. The main content is over there. And for everyone else, we will speak soon.